Thanks, Nan. Well, let's face it, being a parent is tough, and it is really hard to keep your cool, especially if you've got kids who are out of control. Family therapist and author of the book, Screamfree Parenting, Hal Runkel is going to show us how every parent can tame that wild child. So we went over about 1 million problems.
Right, yeah, right.
But
laid them out there.
How do you figure out how to be the one in control and not have your kids be the one in control?
That's the key. Let's examine that phrase, my kids are out of control. Well, out of whose control? Out of my control? Well, usually that's what we mean, they're out of my control, but that's not the job of parents to control our kids. Our job is to help prepare our kids for life outside of our home, to launch them into adulthood. So when we say they're out of control, ultimately we're really saying, well, I just can't seem to find a way to corral them and make them behave the way I need them to behave. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. The problem is not their behavior. The problem, because they're going to act like kids. Yeah. There's no such thing as scream-free kids. They're going to act immature all the time. Okay. But the question is, am I going to act like a kid? Yeah. So the first step in scream-free parenting is saying, I need to focus less on their behavior and more on mine. Yeah. How do I want to behave in this situation? Right. Well, I want my kid to get, no. Your kid's gonna, again, act like a kid. Yeah. How do I want to behave when my kid is throwing a fit in the grocery store?
Right.
If I'm seeing myself on the movie screen, you know what, and I'm watching my character, how would that character behave in a way that would leave me cheering?
Yeah.
Versus how would that character behave in a way that left me just cringing?
Absolutely.
And I never thought to look at it like that, because you know that the little kid has a mind of its own, and that they're going to do what they do in their environment, and that and that basically a lot of things I've taught them, and then I have to come in there at the end, and I got to tell them, it's about me controlling me.
Plus the fact we want them to have enough decision-making process to say no to drugs, and yet I feel like sometimes my problem is I'm very, you should wear this and you should do that, and then I'm not letting my daughter make her own decisions. And with the teenagers, you have to let them make their own decisions.
Our whole job is to help them better decision makers. But so often our anxiety tells us, well, protect your kids, and then we're 18, say, here's your freedom. Well, they're not going to be prepared for it. So I talk about giving our kids choices now. You can wear this, or you can wear this when they're young. Or, you know what, my daughter leaves her bike out in the garage, in the driveway. Instead of saying, how many times am I going to tell you to get that bike in? The kid's going to say, I don't know, how many? Why are you asking me that question? It's up to you. Instead, you know what, honey, you love your bike. You can bring it in the garage, that's great. You can leave it out, that's great too. But if you leave it out, I'm going to take it to Goodwill in the morning.
Now, in your book, you say consequences should do the screaming,
exactly.
Not us. Now, what do you mean by that?
And that's a perfect example. Sometimes, yes, there are no perfect consequences. But like with the bike, I actually did that with my daughter. You can leave it out. That's your choice, and I'm going to respect that choice. Mm-hmm. But here's the consequence. You're going to lose the bike. And she did.
See, because we were talking earlier, and I said how, my dad was kind of he was quiet, then he would scream, and I kind of did the same thing, and I found that I wasn't getting Danny's attention in any other way but in a negative way. He was afraid of me.
Exactly.
And I could see in his face like fear, but then I felt terrible. Like I don't want to frighten you. I want to help you, but you're running around and you're going crazy. You're not listening. So I was taught that the way to get somebody's attention is to scare them.
Exactly.
And that's really, it's
get
not
louder,
working.
get stronger. Exactly. It only lasts as long as they're afraid of you, which won't be very long.
And now these kids that we can see right now up on the screen, they're obviously testing their parents.
Exactly.
Obviously they want some kind of boundaries. Is that true?
They're begging for it, please, because if my parents won't providing those boundaries for me, then I have no help in life, and I am scared to death. Wow. So a parent just steps in, hey buddy, just letting you know, what happens when we fight? Now my kids know, when we fight, we both get in trouble. Mm-hmm. Yep. So you got 5 minutes to make up your mind.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
You say that parents, we're going to check in with Nam on, then we get a question for you from me.
Go ahead, Nam. Sorry to interrupt you mid-flow there, Guy, but quick question from Chaya16, who says, children are just too young to always know what they're doing. It's just what kids do, and sometimes you can't control that. Is that true?
True. But that's how they begin to know what they're doing, is I give them choices with consequences, and I lead them through that process again and again and again. And so again, I have to focus on what can I do to be in the best position, the best health possible, to be consistent with my kids.
Consistency.
Yeah.
You and I are laughing because we were talking earlier about the fact that parents need timeouts.
I know.
Exactly.
Explain that, because I just think that's funny.
I used to be the queen of the timeout, but maybe I need my own. Right.
See, the whole vision for Scream-Free is just to help parents around the world create a pause between stimulus, your kids pushing your buttons, driving you crazy, and response. Because in that pause, you can choose how you want to respond. And that makes all the difference in the world, because then I believe every parent out there has a great parent within them with great parenting skills and desires. But when I lose it in the heat of the moment, all those desires go right out the window.
Wow.
And I just make things worse.
Well, the book is called Screamfree Parenting, and it seems great. I'm going to send it. I'm going to send this one to my sister because my niece is biting. So we'll see what we can do about that. All right.
Gotcha.
So this is for you, Skylar. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for
Pleasure.
having me, guys.
You're going to be available. By the way, Hal will be available. He's doing our online chat, so if you have more questions, he will be there a little bit later on in the show. Are we going to check in with Namwa before we go? Let's check in with Namwa, and then we'll be right back.
Sure, come on over, Guy. Well, we are going to take our own time out right now. Coming up next, getting ready for those summer